And good evening, good afternoon, good morning from wherever you are watching here in the Philippines and from all over the world. And welcome to my podcast, the RJ Ledesma Podcast. Thanks so much for joining me. In this podcast, I interview the country's pioneering business personalities and entrepreneurs to learn more about how they think about doing business, what are their success secrets in business, how have they innovated their businesses during this pandemic, and more importantly, what opportunities do they see emerging in this new normal? Now, is there a business personality or entrepreneur that you would like me to interview here on the podcast? Please let me know. Drop me a message. I would love to learn from them. We are also live right now on YouTube, Kumu, CBRC TV, Global Pinas TV, and now the Bounce Back Network. Tonight, a very special guest, a good friend of mine. I've learned so much from this gentleman when it comes to franchising and marketing and pivoting your business, especially during a pandemic. He is Richie Cuna. He is a businessman and entrepreneur who owns Fiorgelato, a brand that sells pure Italian ice cream. It is the flagship of his group called the Milkin Group, which Cuna also owns. Aside from Fiorgelato, he also created the brands Donburimix, which is a casual Japanese dine-in, DM Express, which is Japanese quick eats, and Kurimi Milk Tea Bar, which is very popular right now, being a Japanese milk tea. His businesses survived and thrived and pivoted in the pandemic, and I'd like to hear from him how he was able to do that. At the same time, he was also encouraged. He also worked together with his friend John Chung, also another franchise expert, in coming up with the brand Kurimi. And with that, please welcome here right now to our show, Richie Cuna. Richie, welcome.
Yes, good evening, my friend RJ. Thank you so much for
Hey, Richie, how are you doing? Thanks so much for joining us here today.
Yeah, we're fine, and of course, very excited that you guested us tonight, RJ.
Just double checking on your audio. Is this audio coming in? I can't seem to pick up the audio. Can you hear me, Richie?
Yes, I can. I can hear you, RJ.
Oh no, the problem here right now is that my audio is at stake. So tell you what, for the first couple of minutes, I am going to just say something about Richie Cuna. And Richie, take over just a bit while I get my audio back on track. But here's the biggest news about Mr. Richie Cuna and why I'm having here right now. Right now, Richie Cuna, the owner of Milkin, is celebrating 30 years of Milkin here in the country, and he's got several brands under his platform, which of course include not only Fiorgelato, he's also got, like I said, DM Express, he's got Donbury, he's got Kurimi. Richie, tell us a bit more about those brands and just how many you have around the country right now, and I'll be right back when I get my audio back on track.
Yes, RJ, mentioning the celebration which we'll be having this coming Wednesday, September 14th. And of course, we are very glad that the company has reached its 30th in the business. No, I know it was not easy, but it's purely, I think it's more the guts of the group, no, to continue operating for almost 3 decades. And as you mentioned, RJ, yes, we are carrying brands like Fiorgelato, which is our pioneering brand when we started 30 years ago. And it has grown to other brands, no? Like, of course, the DM Express Donburimix. And lately, eventually, the Japanese milk tea. So if you'll notice, we've been carrying products which are a bit similar, like both the DM Express, which is a Japanese casual dine-in setup, and the Kurimi are both of a Japanese concept or theme. So I think these are the brands we've been carrying for the past 30 years. And of course, things are just starting. No? When we will celebrate by on Wednesday, I said to the group, maybe this is just a start of another 30 years in the industry. So again, we are very happy and very excited that finally we reached the peak of our target of hitting a 30 years in the business. So again, while waiting for our good friend RJ, they were asking me recently, Richie, after your 30 years in the business, what's next? So I just told them, of course, we would not let go of what we have created for the past 30 years. In fact, like the Kurimi brand, which only was launched in 2019, I would say still very young, no? And much to be done, much to be expected. It's growing at a rate wherein we get excited. I would have to say every day. It's a product or brand which we foresee growing more in the next few years. So they were asking me, "Are you planning for another 30 years, no, after your celebration on Wednesday?" I said, of course. We're just starting to get into a new era of the Milking Group. So I'm so happy that RJ invited us tonight because this is a chance for us, to, of course, not only to share what we have accomplished for the past 3 decades, but also to uh, to share some tips, maybe some tips on how upcoming or startup business can learn from what we have done for the past 30 years. So again, RJ, are you there? Okay, if RJ is not there, I maybe we'll just have to keep on talking about the company. Okay, so if you're with your permission, RJ, I'll just continue. So another question which was asked from us just this morning. No, I was meeting some of my colleagues who would be participating on our anniversary on Wednesday. They keep asking Richie. It seems that the event will focus not only on the achievements for the past 30 years, but more on sharing the not only the tips but the secrets. Or RJ is there. RJ, you're
Thanks so
back.
much, Richie. Thanks so much for everything. I'm not
Yes.
quite sure what was said, but I'm sure it was something that was very substantive for everybody listening here right now. So before everything
Yep.
else, congratulations on the 30th anniversary. And I keep it in mind, but how many did you start with, and how many do you have right now all over the country of your gelato?
Okay. Fiorgelato has reached around 150 stores
Wow.
uh, prior to the pandemic, but for obvious reasons, we were reduced. No, we were affected by the lockdowns, but nevertheless, it's picking up. No, schools are open, businesses are hopefully back to normal. I would say DM Express has reached 30 stores, both the counter type and the inline stores. But amazing is the Kurimi. RJ, you've been
Mhm. Yeah,
a
I can
supporter of
see. I can see
Kurimi
that.
all these years. When we started in 2019, we just had 3 stores. It was supposed to be launched March of 2020. And it was exactly the same month that we had the pandemic. So people were saying, "Are you crazy, Richie? Will you continue launching a new product, a new brand in the Philippines?" So I said, "Why not? No, it was planned. So right now we are hopefully will reach around 60 stores by December. So it's a growth which I would say calculated as far as the program of the company, but very exciting, RJ. It's really exciting times, I would say.
And I'm also very excited for you as well, Richie. And in celebration of your 30th anniversary, I think it's very apt for many entrepreneurs who actually listen to the show to understand really the journey that you went through to build it up to those many branches, and also what are the strategies that you used to be able to scale the brand that way. So the interesting story, which many people don't know, 30 years ago when you began your journey as an entrepreneur, was that you weren't anything close to being a food entrepreneur. You were a banker, is that right?
Yes, RJ. It was really a career for me. No, I mean, my banking is really my focus during those years. But like you guys, like RJ, of course, you have the entrepreneurial blood in you. You cannot
Mm-hmm.
help it, but divert. No? So what I did that time was to do both. I continued my as a banker for, in fact, it's reached around 25 years, and decided to pursue my entrepreneurial journey. So it was simultaneous, RJ, which is advantageous. No, it helped me because you get both sides of the world, like a corporate and your own enterprise as an entrepreneur. So it started that way, and I would say it's really if I will go back to where I started, I would tell you, RJ, I don't know how I did it.
Oh
It
man,
just
that's what I was going to ask
happened.
you. Eh?
It just happened as things went. So I went to the flow of things which were happening. But again, it was not an overnight thing. No, I did my own planning. It was honestly, I keep on telling this. We did a 25 years program. It was a plan which I really had to follow. And luckily, despite all the crisis of the 80s, the 90s, no, we were able to be on board, no, at the right track. So I think that was a blessing, which I keep on saying, thank you for that blessing. Thank you for that
Wow.
blessing.
And I'm just wondering, when you started it off, because I mean, of course, we were all younger during those times, 25 years ago,
Yeah,
30
yeah,
years
yeah,
ago.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
how exactly? I mean, because many people are wondering right now, when is the right time for me to continue my day job, and then
yeah, yeah,
finally, and then
yeah,
because you're burning both ends, diba? You're working
yeah.
day on your day job, you're working night on your entrepreneurial job. Um, when did you decide it was time for you to finally say, I'm going to leave my day job to pursue my entrepreneurship passion?
You know, RJ, it was not easy. It was a nightmare initially. It was a nightmare. Imagine leaving a secure job, no, being a bank executive, and just letting go of all these opportunities in the career. But I said, enough is enough, no. So midway, when I reached my 25 years in banking, I said maybe it's about time to do a full time entrepreneurial job for me. So as I say, it was sleepless nights, but no regrets. No, I would talk now of these things, but during the time, it was not easy. So I would normally tell people not to just jump to the next thing. No, it's matter of preparation. It's not only mental, emotional, or even physical, because you'll be doing things left and right as an entrepreneur, but even financial. You'll be
Mhm.
losing those freebies and high-paying job as a banker, and you'll be starting from what? Maybe negatives, RJ. Maybe start of your business, you will feel something like, is it worth it? But it was a preparation. It was a preparation. If you ask me how long, I cannot say days or months. It was a process. It was a process. No? And as I said, it was not overnight. It was a preparation inside me on the aspect which I mentioned: mental, physical, emotional, and financial. And one day things will say, Richie, this is it. This is it. No turning back. If you pursue leaving your corporate job, of course you can turn back and say, "Can I come back, boss? Can I come back to your bank?" But it's a decision to cross that bridge and say, "This is it for me." So it's really the person who can say, "This is the right time for me to move on."
Got that. And then you did make that. I mean, it's not an easy decision to make, no. Um, and when you did it, you just had that entrepreneurial drive. You sort of had sort of like a backup plan was to go back into banking if ever, right? I mean that's how I
Well,
perceive it to be.
when I decided to leave my banking career, the Milking Corporation was already moving. It was already working
Okay.
for a couple of years. And I said, if and when I decide to come back, there's no problem because, again, many were getting me as a consultant because I was still fresh from the career. But I said, maybe on the side I can. I did a little of those services for these institutions, but the focus was there, RJ. I think you need that focus because if you're half baked on moving on, chances are you keep on looking back. Can I come back? Can I still do what I used to be? You just have to be very decisive. When you say I will move on to the next career, you have to be decisive.
And when you initially chose, let's say, when you said I want to be entrepreneur, you're still in the banking industry, so you had set your sights to eventually putting up your own business. Among the different opportunities that were available to you at the time, why specifically did you choose to do the ice cream business? Was it a passion of yours? Was there a certain problem that you were trying to solve? I mean, how did you fall into this?
Well, first and foremost, RJ, I'm an ice cream lover, like you guys, very much on the ice cream. Huh? And I said when I decided to create a business that time, I wanted to a business which will cater to a lot of the young ones and the not so young and maybe the old ones. No, so I came up with an ice cream. In fact, I started with sorbetes, and it was really more of fun, doing things which I love to eat. And eventually decided this could be a good business. When you do business, of course, it has to be something which you want to do. Imagine this
Mhm.
is doing things for the past 30 years. So that's obviously I'm an ice cream lover, no? And many would like to enter to a business, but at the end of the day, the business doesn't even have the interest in themselves. So that's difficult. No? Why enter to a business which you hate doing it? It's not only because there's money coming in, but you have to do something which you love to do it for the next 3 decades or so. So that's really where I started, no? Is the interest, the like of doing a business initially.
And when you came up with the first flavors of the sorbetero, okay, let's just say,
I-
sorbetero, di ba?
yeah.
Diyan ka na una,
Yes,
di ba?
yes,
Sa
yes,
Filipino
yes,
ice cream. You were
yes,
the one who formulated it yourself. Ikaw lang
yes,
na-create.
yes.
How's it like?
Of course, RJ, andun yung paborito natin, no? Of course, the ube, your queso, your makapuno, your chocolate. These are basics, no? Basic flavors which are practically can be what's anywhere. So, Maynila ice cream came in more of a sorbetes, no? Of catering to parties. But
Mm-hmm.
I said to myself, that's where the 25 years plan came in. I need a brand or a product which will bring you to where we are right now. So I said I need
Mm-hmm.
to upscale, no, a ice cream business. That's where Fiorgelato came in, no, and the Fiorgelato issues history since then.
And how did you evolve from just doing sorbetero? So you said, okay, but sorbetero, I cannot scale this to the degree that I want to scale it.
Yeah, yeah,
When did you
yeah.
finally move towards saying, okay, I'm gonna choose this type of ice cream to this particular niche, Italian ice cream, and also how did you move in that direction to create the Fiorgelato brand?
In fact, the sorbetes was a simultaneous. No, we did the sorbetes and the Fiorgelato because it's a different market. So it's
Okay.
practically enjoying, no, doing all these ice cream recipes and formulation. I think this story has really inspired a lot of our startup entrepreneurs on the business side of ice
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
cream. I would even meet some of those who were listening to us 30 years ago, and they are already in the business of ice cream. No? And of course, I'm happy because it was a inspiration, no? For them that if your gelato can do it, why can't we not do it? So
Wow.
it was a good history for Pure Gelato all these 30 years.
Okay. Tell me about from the first. What was it like when you put up the first branch? Where was the first branch? How was it like for you
Um,
when your first freestanding stall?
Yeah, like any of us, RJ, no, our first clients are our surroundings, friends, relatives, aunties, aunts, and eventually became a request from most of the parties. No, so it really started from there. But I said, this is not what I want. I need a. If you see the history of Milking Group, we would always create a concept which is different. During that time, when I say Fiorgelato, what is Fiorgelato, RJ? Is it a dress? Is it a boutique? God,
Yes,
no, they
that's
were
right.
asking us for gelato. So during that time, you need to explain, what gelato, what is Fior gelato. There's a lot of effort to explain and make sure people understand what you're selling. But those were the birth pains of creating a unknown brand, a not so famous concept for ice cream. No, but it was really a process. It was all part of that 25 years program which we did 25 years ago for Pure Gelato.
Well, so you're on track right now because you hit the
That's
30th year.
something I wish I keep on saying. Thanks God we were able to do it on track, because we know a lot of our colleagues either lost focus on what they're doing, lost the interest on what they're doing, or even practically just diverted overnight. I hate doing this. I just do it the different thing the next day. But at least in our part, I was very religious on what we really wanted to do all these
Yeah.
many years.
That's often what they describe as grit, diba? In the book of
Yes.
Angela
Yeah.
Duckworth, grit is passion and perseverance over the long
Yeah.
term. Whether
Yeah.
you like to do what you do or you don't like what you're doing, but you do it every day because it
Yes.
must be done.
Yeah, that's why I said earlier, you have to get into a business which you love to do. Imagine, this is not 3 days or 3 weeks or 3 months or 3 years. This is 3 decades of doing your business, not like Pure Gelato.
Wow. And then, so Richie, after the first branch, no, what was the strategy after that? And because okay, it was successful. Um, when did you know what was the next point on how to grow the brand, whether it's company owned or to start like we've had Jomag was actually my first guest over here. Jomag of Potato Corner
Yeah.
is my first guest. That franchising was going to be your strategy to grow the business because like for Jomag, he said, at the very start, I'm really going to use franchising to grow the business. In Japsia, the same way, diba?
Yeah.
What was your own plan to grow
Okay,
Pure Gelato?
franchising was always there. No, in fact, these are our colleagues, sila Jomag and the rest of the guys. No, we all started more or less at the same years. No, in the early 1990s, something like that, mid 1990s. And my really focus was not to jump into franchising right away. I
Mhm.
said, let's give it a couple of years. I want to see the A to Z, the ins and out, no, of running a business before I share the concept to a franchising platform.
Mhm.
So, but behind my mind, franchising was always there. Remember, we were one of those guys who were pioneering in the franchising industry those years. And of
Mhm.
course, we were really introducing this platform as a vehicle for entrepreneurs to expand their business. No, but again, there should be a lot of careful studies. You have to safeguard the system. These are birth pains, I would say. No, it was not easy during those years, but I think perseverance and discipline. I think I will keep repeating this: the discipline of a entrepreneur, a discipline of a franchisor to be is very important. This is not a matter of expanding just for the sake of numbers. This is not just a matter of getting money from your franchisees, which is a no-no. This is just not a matter of just doing things to make things good, no, in the face of people. These are responsibilities. These are moral obligations on our part to share our business and let them expand it, no, through our franchising program. So it was not easy for during the initial stages.
And when you talk about the initial stages, I hope you don't mind. I mean, we've gone through many challenges, and the pandemic is just the latest.
Yeah.
But we often talk about the problems in putting up the business, and there were great challenges that came in establishing it, both external and internal crisis. External, I'm sure the Asian economic crisis was something that you
Yeah,
went
yeah,
through.
that's true. That's
What were
true.
what were the greatest challenges that you went through? I mean, so people can also learn how they can fortify themselves in the future. Parang alam nila na,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna go through these problems, but what was your perspective? How did you handle them at those times? If you can share
You
your
know,
what you went
RJ,
through.
and to rest of our listeners, it is important that the company or even the people running the company has always in their mindset that they should be ready for any crisis that will come in. You just don't move when the crisis just is in front of you. I think this is a culture which is presently or from the start present with the Milking Group. Because remember, during the 1990s, during our first decade in the business, andyan RJ yung Asian turmoil, no? Uh, Things were very uncertain during those early and mid 1990s, I would say. And siguro we learned to do it as a habit. And we've gone to the second decade of so many other crises, internal or external. So when the crisis came in of the pandemic on our third decade, on our third year, on our 30th year, parang sanay na eh. Naging culture namin that any crisis, we have to be ready. That's why I know we had a lot of sessions during the pandemic, RJ. You were doing a lot of interviews. I already mentioned this, that when the crisis came in March 2022, mga May pa lang on board na yung Milking Group for another, we were already moving for a adjustment of what we should do on a new normal. That fast, no? It was a instant for all of us to just do a reinventing of ourselves early as that stage of the 2020. So it was a habit. So I think for people who would say, when should I be prepared? Be prepared from the start. You can never know when the crisis will come in.
Wow. Really, really sage advice coming from you. And I want to go a bit into what you actually did for your brands, during the time, because those are you were juggling multiple brands technically
Yeah,
during that
yeah,
time,
yeah,
just to see how it would work. No, but let's talk a bit more on the positive side. When we struggle, when we do our own struggles as we are, I guess, moving up, and the birth pains that happen with the company. There comes a certain point when you feel like, wow, parang this is a milestone, or I've made it. When did it feel like that for you in the 25 years of Kurimi? When was the first time you felt like, I'm sorry, in Fiorgelato, where you felt, wow, this is going to be
Well,
good, this is going to succeed?
for Milking Group as in general, RJ, no, I think the first 10 years was a milestone. No, that was a big celebration. God, finally we hit the 10th year. No, that was Fiorgelato. Then came in our 25 years. No, layo from 10 to 25. No, and wow, maybe this is it. We did our 25-year. I said, can I retire? Can I just rest, RJ? Because we already hit 25 years. But God, it was just a start of things happening for us, no? And as I said, now on our 30th, feeling ko, we're just starting another episode of another 30 years. So those stages came in by numbers like 10, 25, and 30. And every time you reach a 10th or 25 or 30th year or anniversary, it feels something new again, RJ. Diba? Right now, we are more excited because more will happen for the next few years. Alam mo naman si Milking Group, we keep on developing new concept products. Tinatawag niyong naka-hibernate ba? Tawag natin doon, no? For to
Nag-hibernate lang
develop.
during the
Oo.
during the
Yes,
pandemic.
yes, and they are being developed, waiting for the right time. And when they're ready, we launch it. That's how we think. That's how the culture of the company has been moving for the past 30 years.
So in other words, what we look at really is Milkin as a group, and just
Yes.
Fiorgelato as a flagship, but not the main brand of Milkin. So Milkin was really built as a, I guess, a food and beverage innovation company. Is that right? Where you were just
When
churning out
uh,
ideas.
when um, when Fiorgelato was starting to move and started to divert to like the Trio Mix, which is our Donburi DM Express, automatic they became a milking group. That's what
I
happened.
see.
But these are all independent companies under one umbrella. And later on came in other companies. And recently, of course, our Kurimi, which is the Kurimi Milk Tea Enterprise Company, which is again another independent company under the umbrella of Milking Group.
I
So
see.
you're starting to only not manage one, but the rest of the brands, no, which is very effective.
Now, when you were growing Milk, I'm just curious. Okay, you started Fiorgelato. When did you know that it was time uh, to 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 branch out into a new concept? Tell us a bit more about what was the story from Fiorgelato. Then all of a sudden you develop Donburimix. How did that come about?
Okay, going back to the 25 years program, I said on this particular stage, no, plus minus, it can happen 2 years later, it can happen 2 years before the target date. We need to launch a new concept. Of course, obviously, RJ, nasa food tayo, no? Kilala mo naman kami. And we don't go to other industries which are not of our line. No? That's something. You have to focus on area which is of your expertise. So, Trio Mix came in a bit late, much later. And of course, I think that was 8, 9 years ago for Trio Mix. And eventually, the Kurimi, which was a long-term plan. No? You know, yung milk tea, RJ, even 12 years ago, we really wanted already to get into the business of milk tea. But we were small. Nobody even listened to us or even entertained us to get a master franchise. So I said, no problem. We are small, but we can just keep on moving. So I said, maybe I just buy one branch of a milk franchise, RJ, because I believe on the industry. No? I think this is a industry which will be just right for the era. That's how I read it. May kanya-kanyang
Mhm.
era ang product. No? So I said maybe just get a franchise, one store, and enjoy the business. But again, I didn't get the opportunity. Most of our colleagues said, Richie, you're just kidding. This is a joke. I don't think you're serious. And I said, no, I am serious. I just want one store. That frustration brought me to the point of, guys, why don't we just create or get a concept from outside the country, which my priority was Japanese. So I have to
Mhm.
contact my Japanese partners of Fiorgelato for many
You have
years.
Japanese. Wait, so sorry. You got Japanese partners pala for Fiorgelato?
Yes, we opened Fiorgelato with another brand in Japan for the longest time, but we were hit by
Ah, I see.
the big crisis of the tsunami. I think it was 215, something like 214. No? So I have to say, pack up kami, RJ. I have to bring back all my equipments and close the stores in Japan. Even Malaysia to close. So it was an episode which I would say learning. It's a learning thing for us. It was a crisis which had beyond our control.
Mhm.
So when the milk tea came up in 2018, the first thing I did was to collaborate with them. Bring me a Japanese concept. 2018. And we did a test run in 2019 and supposedly a launching of March 2020. That
Wow,
is
what
the
great timing,
exciting
huh?
part. Yes, RJ. And also my colleague said, Richie, not because we don't believe on you, but I think, guy, you're so crazy. You're just so crazy to continue a new business, a new brand, a known brand during a crisis. So I said, why not? This is part of the plan. This is part of the plan. I don't even know what will happen the next day, but this is a plan which I believe planning was a effective tool for the past 25 years. So let's just do it. They said, were you afraid? No, not afraid. More of excitement. I was so positive that things will do well with a launching. In fact, there was not even a formal launching, RJ. Baka launching ito ba October pa nga. Hindi pa nga nalo-launch si Kurimi officially.
Mm,
It was just a
interesting.
process of just moving as demand comes in. Launching will be just still October, which is 3 years after.
Very
So
interesting.
exciting, right? Very exciting. Amazing, I would say.
And when you put Kurimi up, I'm gonna go back a bit before we talk a bit more about Kurimi. Yung Donburi mix was also an idea you formulated inside. I mean, it was a
Yes.
company
Yes.
inside Milky that was formulated.
Yeah.
I want to ask you just why Donburi? Was it because you're Japanese partners? Was it because you like Japanese food?
First and foremost, I grew up in Japan when I was in grade school. I studied there,
Ah,
and I
I
love
see.
not only the culture but the food. RJ, you know that, no? Japanese food is so a comfort food for me. And obviously, living there for the longest time, ma-absorb mo talaga the interest of not only the culture but the businesses, no? So I really wanted to have a Japanese concept for the longest time, no? Don't want to buy anymore. I just said to eat in my store. So I said, let's pursue, no, Donburimix, no. Of course, it was really hit by like most of us, no, mga inline stores natin, RJ, no, during the pandemic. But it was established well, no, and it had a good base, I would say, no, a foundation, which you can always just keep on pushing the button and pursue a DM Express or Donburimix, no. The foundation was there, although it was hit, but again, it's not an issue. We can always bounce back and continue doing it anytime. Yeah.
I like
So
that when you said it
this
was
is the
hit, but
reasons why I really wanted the Japanese concept, no, not because I grew up there, but you like the culture and
you like the culture.
the
Uh-uh.
team and of course the food.
Um, Here's the interesting thing that I want to ask. I mean, you kept on saying you were hit, but you were able to immediately
Yeah,
get up again.
yeah.
Take me back to that pandemic situation. I'm sure, just like you, like my own business, Mercato, you had to close
Yes,
down many of our
yes,
places because of
yeah,
we couldn't open up.
yeah.
What was the exact pivot that you had? What did you have to do? Did you have to downsize? Did you have to change the lineup? Because it's ice cream and it's a product that people must consume at once. And
Yeah.
if you don't, delivery might have been an option, but we don't know. You weren't built. Fiorgelato might have been built for delivery at the time, for
Yeah,
e-commerce and delivery.
yeah,
So how did you
exactly.
pivot? Yeah,
Yeah.
how did you pivot Fiorgelato and Donburi during that pandemic?
The good reason behind being prepared for a crisis is you have your assignments done ahead of time. No, we just have to get it from the shelves and implement it. So in the case, yeah, right, RJ was mentioned, how can Richie, what will happen with your ice cream or gelato? You will just keep on melting. No? So definitely, we were on board on selling our our scooping stations, no, of gelato, which was impossible, and put it into pints. So we were practically selling our pints, no? Our distribution was developed. Ikaw na rin nagsabi, digital, no? So immediately we had to use this platform during the pandemic. And now you have both. You have your scooping station, the traditional, and you have your online. So these are the benefits of what happened for the past 2 years because we were forced to implement it. Again, these are in the shelves. I will keep on repeating, be prepared. Put them in the shelves. The right time you say you need them, then use it. I think that was the same concept with Trio Mix. Raw restaurants, RJ, both of us were crying, no restaurants for us. Our stores were
Mm-mm.
closed. Like RJ was even quicker than anybody to pivot and create your creations of your businesses. And if there's no restaurants, then we just have to pack all our items and sell it online, our frozen products. So it was a principle that was used basically because you were ready. No, you just don't do it when the crisis is in front of you. You have to be prepared ahead of time.
So you had a sort of business continuity plan that you could pull off the shelf. Is that right?
If you will term it that way, maybe yes. But my background was really on business development. All my years with the bank,
Mm-hmm.
business development, crisis management. Maybe these things of the past has made me a culture in me to keep on doing this even if you don't need it. If you don't need it, then just develop it. Maybe one day you might need it. And so happened, we need it. So it was easy.
It's like insurance. It's your business insurance. The planning is
Yeah,
business insurance.
in a way, RJ. Yeah, in a way.
Got that. So you're playing with this in the mind. I mean, the interesting thing is, I'm thinking about it right now. Is that you had Kurimi and then you had DMX, and you were having to quickly pivot the business, but at the same time, you juggled one more
Yeah,
brand, which was Kurimi
yeah.
over here. How did you grow that in the midst of this pandemic?
Korimi was a real challenge. Imagine you're already entering a um, a venue wherein there's no lights, no people. To what's inside that stadium, if I would say, it's really blanco, no? But what I was holding on is on a plan, a vision that there is something inside that dark room or that venue. There is something. And all we have to do is be ready and be firm that we will enter that dark room. That was my philosophy that time. And I pursue. Oh my God, when you enter that dark room, ang liwanag pala sa loob eh. There were so many um, streams of possible revenues inside that dark room. I think it was really a challenge. Guts lang siguro, pinasukan namin yan.
Wow, wow. And just like how many, you said 2020, you just launched it in the midst of the pandemic. How many
Yeah.
Kurimis do you have right now?
60 will open by December. Most of them are
60.
under construction, yeah. Under construction, under training. But definitely it will reach 60 by December.
60 in 2.5 years amidst this pandemic. What an achievement
Eh,
for you
if
guys.
you ask me, RJ will keep on asking me, Richie, how did you do it? It was a step by step. It was not overnight. It was really hard work. You know mo, RJ, bumalik ako sa panahon ng 30 years ago. Ikaw ulit ang captain of the ship. You have to do everything. You have to be on board in all the activities because it's a baby for you, something new. And remember, this is a crisis and you're doing it during a pandemic, uncertainty, right?
Wow. And were these expanded via company owned or were these franchise stores, much of these stores that you opened up?
Yes, yes. It was we were trying to balance, no? How many stores we can give as a franchise, how many stores we have to operate as company owned. And of course, obviously, we need company owns, no, to really do a lot of testing, no, for the enhancement of Kurimi. Remember, not only we are operating on our own, we are operating with multiple challenges and competitors all over. I think that's one big challenge which we have to not only see but fully understand. No?
Wow. And talking about expanding Kurimi by franchising, there may be people also, entrepreneurs listening to the show also right now, who are wondering, they do have a brand, they have a small company, um, or whatever they have, a service business or food business. Um, how do they, I mean, based on your experience and on your rich experience, no, how do they know that it's time to finally bring in franchising as a strategy to grow? That's the first question. The second question is, like you were saying, but there has to be a mix between a company owned and a,
Yeah.
company owned stores, and then stores which are franchised. How do they, what is there a certain rule of thumb to know how many stores should be under you and under a franchise? Let's start off with the first question. I'm sure you get that all the time, but how do people know that my business is good for franchising or it's not good for franchising, and when do I do it?
This is the most tricky part, no, RJ. You know this very well. You are an expert on this, and I keep on telling startup entrepreneurs, be careful of just riding the wagon of the success of franchising. Be very careful. No? It sounds good. It sounds exciting. It sounds amazing because expansion left and right. But remember, these were done by the franchisors, not overnight. It was hard work. And understanding when a particular business is franchisable or not is the biggest challenge. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean because I have a show my business and the rest of the show my brands are doing well, you'll do well. It's not that. It doesn't go that way. It's just purely a simple copycat, I would say. Same way with milk tea. But what comes there is you have to be different. You have to be unique. You have to be different from the rest of your show my counterparts left and right. Otherwise, you're just killing each other. O, yung 5 piso, naging 3 piso. 3 piso, naging piso. Or libre na lang, RJ, buy one, take one. No? This happens because you
Mhm.
just keep on riding to the success of what you see. You need to have a very different, very unique selling point, no, as they would say, no. Otherwise, it will not move. It will not move. No, it will just be a short live, and you'll be the same with the rest. So, uniqueness of a new concept for me, no, is very important. No, RJ is a creator of innovative concepts. No, and you know what I mean here. It's just if you just keep on doing a simple mercato, RJ, nothing will happen. Yours is
Exactly.
not only unique but distinct. I would say something really done by experts, something which is different from the rest. So that is very important. I think that's one of the first tasks of an entrepreneur if they decide to franchise their business. The
There must be something unique because
franchisability, of course, definitely. Never be just a simple copycat. Many were asking, Richie, you still get into a milk tea business? Ang dami na yan. Flooded. Left and right, up and down. Even if your eyes are closed, you will still see a lot of brands. That's how we term it, no? Ang dami. But I said, no, that's not an issue because we have a something which we are offering. We're confident with the team, with the concept, and uniqueness was there. Otherwise, bibili na lang ako ng milk tea sa corner. Marami naman eh.
that's right.
Just
That's
to
right.
satisfy my taste bud, right, RJ? As simple
That's
as
right.
that.
And I just want to emphasize that point. And we always tell people that, some people call it the unique selling proposition, but it's really,
Yeah.
it's like saying, so many people right now are saying, get a takoyaki franchise, get a shawarma franchise, get a milk tea franchise.
Yeah.
But, if they're very generic and, nobody is going to want to get that. I mean, in the longer run, talo yung mga franchisees mo. Because
Yeah,
the ones that made the money,
exactly.
the franchisor,
Uh-huh.
but the franchisee, because there's no uniqueness to the concept, it's not going to stand out in the minds of the
Exactly.
consumer,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Uh,
We have
and
worked on this a lot, RJ, no, with your Easy Franchise School, Kila Bubbles. So we have worked on this a lot. We have discussed on this a lot on sustainability of brands which can be franchisable.
that's right.
And we want, of course, to make sure if you start introducing a brand, a concept, that has to be forever, as would say. That has to be sustainable. Sustainability is important. It cannot be 1 year, 2 years, and forget about that. Your franchises will kill you. That
That's
will
right.
kill us. So these are very critical initial part of planning. No, if you want to get into this kind of industry.
So let's just for an academic exercise, what is the franchisability of Fiorgelato? What made it different from, let's say, getting any other ice cream?
I think first and foremost, during when we started 30 years ago, very few were in the gelato business. If I just wanted an ice cream or sorbetes, ang dami eh. It's all over, no? Si Manong sorbetero pa lang, papatayin ka na sa streets, right? They're all over. But I really wanted to create something which is of a premium, no? Gelato done fresh on site, fresh, a bit healthy, I would say, more gourmet. It was a niche which we started with Fiorgelato, and the rest is history.
Got that. And then having said that, no, let's take a look now at Donburimix. I mean, Japanese food, dime a dozen yan, technically. So what
Yeah.
made the Donburimix different?
Well, in the case of Donburi, the concept was preparing quick Japanese food on your fresh on site, no, just in front of you, no. So we created counters or even kiosks, wherein these items are prepared fresh in your face, right in your face, and freshness was important because most of the stores will just do their products back in the kitchen or maybe medyo ilang hours na on board, no? So in our case, we wanted to create Japanese street food, no? Fresh on side, seen by people, and they can just eat it instantly. So it was a concept designed for DM Express, no? And the same way, of course, with Kurimi.
Got it. And finally, Kurimi, in the universe of milk teas out there, what made it stand out? I mean, to my mind, I see it, but I would just want to help other people also see it as well among the consumers or among people
Well,
who
of
are looking
course,
at franchise.
I'm a lover of milk tea of many brands. No, I love the brands. I love their recipe, their taste. Their each and every milk tea shop is unique. I would say, no, it has its unique taste and presentation. But in the case of Kurimi, I said it has to be outside the box. RJ, I keep on repeating this because it will be if you just create a milk tea shop, it's just the same. No, it's just the same. There are two parts, no? The taste and the team. the ambience, the look. And we need both to be unique. Now, in fact, we're already thinking of a third element to make it more unique. This is part of the innovation that's happening very fast, no? So, without the first two elements, out ako sa ice cream, sa milk tea. I would not even pursue. So, I think that was the basic reason why we created Kurimi, no? Each and every store is unique from the rest of the 59 stores. So
Got that.
uniqueness was there. I myself, when I create a store or building up a store, the excitement is very high because each and every store I design. I designed the store with the group, and being a small kid living in Japan, the memories is very clear. Now, you not only because you read it in the books, you see on you watch your Netflix or you video, etc. You were there for many years, and if like in the case of my 2D look
Yeah,
at the back,
behind
no?
you, right behind
This
you. Yeah.
is a typical Shibuya. No? It's a Shibuya crossing, which we are very familiar. No, and each in particular building, I can even imagine in my if I close my eyes, even the Hachiko dog, which is very famous there. And this is a concept which is of a collaboration with the franchisee of the franchise store. So each and
Wow.
every store, we discuss it with the franchisee. Mom, sir, if you want to open a Kurimi, and what team do you want? Japanese, of course. What will be the first thing in your mind? A famous place, a famous, doon ba kayo una nag-date ni sir? Doon ba kayo nag-honeymoon ni sir o ni ma'am? Something which is close to your heart. So each and every store, RJ, has a story to tell. Not only of the 2D look, but of the franchisee. May
Nice.
kwento
And,
yan. In
and
fact,
that's a bit
most of
unique.
the
That's a bit
drawings,
unique that you're actually
kasama
working
nga
with
sila
each
eh.
store. Di ba?
Yes,
Parang
may
it's like
kasama nga sila sa mga drawing minsan. Richie, ako yun, di ba? Yes, we did it for you. Isa may mga anime kimono girl na si ma'am yun, ha? It's a look of the owner of the store. So this is not just a simple milk tea. It is really a premium, I would say maybe an art piece, I would say, because these are all done by hand. These are not stickers. These are
wow, really,
uh,
huh? Wow, I
truly
didn't realize
amazing.
that.
Makakatuwa yan. Kaya whenever we open a store, I would go there because I would direct exactly what I want the artist to execute. So
And then
this is
so
not a simple.
it's like you're franchising, but you're still customizing at the same time, which is a kind of a
That
unique
is
idea
the
because
point.
usually,
That is the point I was mentioning. It has to be unique. Hindi na pwedeng copycat tayo pare-pareho. You're into, otherwise, bibili na lang ako ng paborito nating milk tea. Mga friends natin, di ba? Bibili na lang ako, I'll be satisfied. Hindi pwede. It has to be different. Not only the ambience, but even the recipe are all concocted by us. Sariling
fantastic.
taste. Hindi pwedeng over the counter. Pas tayo dyan. Pas tayo dyan.
I'm really getting a lot of insight over here, Richie. And another insight I
Yes.
also want to gain is, I guess this is based on corporate objectives
Yeah.
of the mother company. But then,
Yeah.
how do you know what is the balance between how many franchises you should have and how many corporate company owned? Like for example, even McDonald's has company owned and has some franchises. Jollibee's got that, and from large and small companies which are into this type of business, into food, usually do have franchises. But how do you know what's the mix for you?
Well, for each and every industry on franchising, they have the numbers on the percentage of how it has to be in proportion. No? And in our case, speaking of Kurimi, for me, if I get a couple of company stores on a specific location, which I need, then we're fine. We're fine. I just need, because you want to make sure that the market, will accept a Kurimi. So maybe I would get a location for the A market, a B market, a C market, and understand it. In that way, if there would be some franchisees within that class level who would like to open a franchisee, I would know. No? And of course, it's a rule of thumb, never franchise without a company owned. But the numbers really depend on you, on your objective, why you're opening company owned stores.
Got that. Now, Richie, I know you told me earlier on that Milkin still has a lot of concepts in
Yeah,
the pipeline. Not that
yeah,
we want you to reveal what these concepts
yeah,
are,
yeah.
but then how do you what's the methodology now to approach how to create new food companies, especially given the fact that people might think, wow, I mean, milk tea, gasgas na yan, but you did something interesting.
Uh,
Japanese food, gasgas na yan, but you
oh,
did
yes.
something. And yung time mo, ice cream, could have been generic as well, di ba?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you were able to do something. So what is sort of like the philosophy moving forward? I know that, you talked about the idea of uniqueness, a strong, something customized over there. But moving forward, how do you create these really great concepts that will emerge?
There's what we call a innovative box, I would say. No? It's a toolbox, which has been a culture for the past 3 decades. And that toolbox is where we use it when we need it. So if I feel that a certain brand need a lot of innovation, no, for enhancement, I just open the toolbox. No? And once you open the toolbox, doon na pumapasok yung tinatawag namin mad scientist, RJ. We do a lot of innovation, creation, and from there, no, there's no exact recipe on this or exact formula. No? It's really something that skills of the people behind a company comes out. No? And when I said Kurimi has a lot in store, these are coming from the toolbox. No? It's not just open the toolbox and use it. Of course, you get the tools and you do your product innovation. It's a
Got that.
process. It's a process. Again, you have to do it. Don't wait for the time that, because I have to do it. That's why I need this. You have to do it anytime because that has part of your planning.
And in terms of the planning, no, as we start to wrap up this conversation, it's very, very interesting, Richie. No, for example, when it comes to the point that many people who are starting off, they might think that there's no more space left for me because I mean, usually people are starting out, I want to be an entrepreneur, but nagawa na to, nagawa na to yung concept, all these concepts are already out there. Um, what do you think are still the opportunities that you see? Let's say that if you didn't pursue them, Richie, and if you had, like right now, you're pursuing so many different opportunities, so there are things that you've left behind. But then, what opportunities do you see emerging for entrepreneurs who want to enter into the food space?
Okay, first and foremost, there is no such thing as saturated. Every day that we live, we breathe, there is something new out there. Okay, if there is no definite new concept that is available, again, there is what we call innovation, creativity of an existing concept. There is always a room for that. RJ, nagugulat tayo minsan, bigla lang, oh, sabi ni RJ, Richie, ba't di ko naisip yun? Pwede pala yun. Di ba?
Oh, yan yung mga, kasi tayo ba't di ko naisip yun? Exactly, those situations na yan.
So RJ, ikaw, expert ka dyan, RJ, I know that. And you just think, di ko nga naisip yun. So, what I want to stress here is, in any existing business, there is so much space and room to enhance, innovate it. Remember, sa mundong ito, paulit-ulit naman eh. Bihira naman talagang may magpapa-up up na new concept na from heaven. Once in a lifetime, maybe. But most that you will see are, balikan natin ang successful brands. Twists. There are a lot of twists, a lot of innovation that makes them different. That's it. You just have to open your eyes. Alam mo, I've encountered a lot of entrepreneurs. Sir, ilang linggo, ilang buwan na kami nag-iisip ng concept. Ayaw na namin. We're so burnt out, RJ. Burnt
So
out
jaded na, di ba? Kasi lahat ng creative juices mo talagang tinigan na eh.
But you don't have to go. Just look around, focus on the interest of what you want to do, and there is something just beside you. Huwag kayong magpakasira ng ulo. It will not be seen in heaven or in a market wherein everything is displayed there for new items. It's just around. You just have to be creative, no? And see the distinction of a concept.
Wow, thanks a lot, Richie, for a lot of the inspiration that you've given to us here right now.
Of course, yes,
Now, as we start to wrap up this conversation, you did say that you were Milkin and Sorbetes Fiorgelato at the very start was part of a 25-year plan. Who plans 25 years? Not everybody, but as you can see from your success, successful people plan way ahead of time. But if you were to reflect right now, what would be the best, I guess, pieces of management advice or management hacks that you've learned over the years that you'd like to share with your fellow entrepreneurs as they make their own, as they brave their own way
Yeah,
through
yeah.
this new normal environment.
Yes, RJ, I think first and foremost, you have to enhance your skills, no matter what that is. No, it's kasi I enhance my marketing skills or my financial side of things or the other aspect. For me, no matter, you just have to enhance your skills because you would need it one day as a tool. Remember, I keep on telling that box of toolbox, no? Which I've been mentioning. So that's one. You have to enhance, keep enhancing your skill, no? And do plan. Like in our case, planning was a Bible for us. I will not move without a business plan because that's your guide. Otherwise, siguro, RJ, lost track na ako, out track na ako all these years with all the distractions. Uh, it's obvious to most of us entrepreneurs. It happens. But in this case, plan it. Plan it. You have to be sure on what you want to do. Like Kurimi, naku, nakaplano. It was a plan thing. That's why gulat kayo. Richie, how do you do these things? It's a plan. No? It's what I call in the office a synchronized program for everybody, from my part to my officers and the rest of the team. It has to be synchronized. And of course, lastly, get into a business. Obviously, we keep on, ano na to, broken record na to. Get into business. We have where you have already a skill. No? Not only the interest, but meron ka na ring alam. That's important because it makes things easier for you to be flexible in your journey, in your business. So I think those three items for now are important.
Well, thanks so much, Richie, for taking time out to share really
Yes,
great insights. I know it's hard preparation that you're doing here again. So again, it's the 30th anniversary of Milkin this coming September 14. Very glad to be hosting that event. Richie,
yes,
any
yes.
promos right now for the Milkin Group that anybody can expect for the 30th anniversary?
Well,
Can they expect anything from the
on
stores?
September 14, which is the anniversary of the Milking Group, no, I know all the branches are giving free first 30 customers for a free milk tea.
Yeah,
No need
hey,
to buy anything, just be there. The first 30 are this is nationwide for all the stores.
for
That's
all
the
Kurimi.
yes, all Kurimi stores.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And then just in case you've got people here listening right now who are interested to actually franchise a Kurimi branch, and this can be anywhere in the country, right?
Yep, yep. Anywhere in the country, yes.
Yeah, so wait, just so people just know, you've got Kurimi here in Metro Manila, but what's the farthest Kurimi that you have right now from
Right
Metro
now,
Manila?
it's spread out from up to Gigarao, up north, down Jensan or Zamboanga or Marawi, down the south. And of course, we are happy. And in fact, RJ, you'll be meeting our US Kurimi group. No, they're coming here. They're
Wow!
flying. I think tomorrow night. I think to be part of the big event. No? We're having like 220. RJ, dami mong bisita. Ikaw pa naman mag-host. No? And these are solid franchises of the brands. No, in fact, I didn't even invite friends or relatives. These are purely franchisees and some of the organizations, no, which I'm involved. Of course, Easy Franchise there. Make
Thank you
sure
so
your
much. And of
guys are
course, our
there.
friends from
And
PFA and
yes,
Go Negosyo, hopefully.
ECCI, Go Negosyo, DTI. These are the core which has been helping Kurimi for the past, I mean, Milkin Corporation for the past 30 years. So, wow. Of course, I'm very excited because we have the most sought host, RJ Ledesma,
Thanks so much for
which
the kind
practically
words,
knows my
Richie.
history.
Thank you, Richie.
Yes.
So
Thank
again,
you.
if they want to, if somebody wants to get a franchise, whom can they
Of
contact
course,
if
they
they're
can
interested
just
to
on
check you
our,
out?
of course, check on our website, no, www.kurimimilktea.com. And of course, you can get my number, 0917-564-9414. Clearly.
Yeah, okay.
Simple
Thank
as
you
that.
so much, Mr. Richie Cuna. And again,
Yes,
thanks so much for supporting as well my own startup Easy franchise
yes,
in helping
yes, yes.
our OFW entrepreneurs invest in their own franchise of their dreams. So again, thanks so much, Richie. And we'll see you guys in the next episode of the RJ Ledesma Podcast. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you. Take care.